welcome to IDFC First Bank presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11. I'm Sunanda Jayasheelan. On the show tonight, we are bringing you personal and wealth management tips from some of India's most renowned names in the personal finance space. This is a conversation from our Surat Springboard, a series of conversations that we do across the country to connect better with entrepreneurs like yourself. My colleague Pooja Jain was in Surat to have these conversations. Listening. Piyush, Sarawagi, CFA, founder CIO, YellowJersey Investments. Gopal Lakhotia, Head Investments, Wealth Management, IDFC First Bank.
So a quick look on stage will tell you that we have two different generations here. We have representations from, two different schools of thought entirely. And I think that sort of resonates with the point that there is no one-size-fits-all formula here, But what I'd like to do by way of kickstarting the conversation, and I'll start with you, Gopal, is what has worked for you? So I think personal finance and corporate finance is all about learning from example. Right? I think that is the best teacher. There is no substitute for first-hand experience. So how would you characterize some of the most important lessons learned along your journey?
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. So wealth is ultimately what you save the money is what is left kind of thing which is there. So what you save is what is the wealth you create over a period of time and where you invest. So even if one makes a lot of money, but if it is spent and not saved, it will be lost kind of thing over a period of time. So saving over a period of time would create a wealth for the next generation and for yourself, maybe for retirement. So one needs to actually save and start early to create that kind of wealth. One of the lessons she asked is, I started a little late in my career to build that. Probably if you start early, you can build real assets, etc. from those savings from early age.
All right. And Piyush, oftentimes there's a lot of blurring of boundaries between saving versus investing. Especially in a nation like India, where we are constantly characterized as a nation of savers, and that we need to become a nation of investors. What's your take on that? How do you respond?
So I would totally agree that, yeah, we are the nation of savers. So right from the birth of a child, parents start to save money. Whatever we get during any events from the grandparents or any relatives, we tend to put up in a saving piggy bank account, right? So that habit is already there. Apart from that, although the line is blurred, but investing has a little bit more complexities attached to it. Namely, so basically you can save in the saving accounts. For investing, you need some amount of knowledge about basic financial products available in the market. You do savings for your shorter term needs, for catering to your emergency needs, for expenses and things like that. But you invest for a longer term perspective, maybe a holiday, maybe to buy a car, a flat, or whatever. So I think those are the two different things.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we were to take a look at entrepreneurs, I think one of the most commonly made mistakes is sort of not drawing distinct boundaries between personal cash flow and a business cash flow or a corporate cash flow, right? An entrepreneur can find themselves kind of straddling both sides, and that oftentimes leads to their detriment, right? How do you suggest avoiding finding yourself in that situation?
See, again, the situation where we mix the personal wealth with the business leads to those kind of things, because businesses will go through cycles. And what happens is, if you are having certain goals in mind where you need a cash flow at a definite time, and that particular year is a bad year or you make losses, probably that would end up compromising on your goals, or you'll have to delay the goals at that point in time. So the ideal way is whatever profits you generate during the year, a certain portion of that gets segregated into the personal wealth. You keep it aside. Probably that may become handy at a point in time the year the business is not doing well. That could be one of the things. Or if, say, there are certain liabilities which come in and the business and personal can be segregated, you can actually protect your personal wealth also in that case. So segregating the money, putting every year little money aside out of the profits would help in the bad times kind of thing, whether in the business or the market environments.
All right. And Piyush, my next question is to you. Is there a certain age and stage in life at which it becomes important to, for example, work towards a credit score, right? There's no magical figure or period in one's life. So how does one get that sense that it's the time to start?
I think this should be inculcated from a very young age, right? So I read somewhere that, like going back to the previous question also to answer this, we start saving from a very young point, but we don't usually know how to use a credit card, how much to use a credit card and things like that, even when we enter college, right? So a good way would be for parents to, have a very clear path in educating their child right from the start. When they turn 13 or 14 years old, you can start telling them about credit cards, how they function, how are the charges levied, and things like that. When they grow older, at the age of around 17, 18, you can tell them about education loans. And at the age of around 23, 24, when they start earning, educating them about insurances would be of great help. So coming back to the credit scores and building of that, when you start at such a young age, you can, better plan your reports. You can review them annually. There are 4 credit rating agencies in India. All of them provide one report for free every year. And you can check them for the areas where you can improve.
Well, Piyush brings up an interesting point. And Gopal, I think the reality is that discussing matters of money, perhaps there's a cultural subconscious bias, but many people find it, uncomfortable to do, even within the circle of their immediate family and friends. What's the solution in such a scenario where someone is thirsty for financial literacy, but they simply cannot find the right avenues?
There are multiple avenues available if one wants to spend time on. The basics can start off with the primary earning member of the family who is taking the India as a concept is one decision maker for the family who takes it for every member,
right,
kind of thing which is there. The idea is you start involving the family members in the decision making process and inform them about where you are investing and why, and they should understand where the assets lie. In case of any eventuality, many times families don't even know where the assets are there. Today, the regulator has made it life very easy where everything is linked to your PAN number, which is a basic thing which is there. They send out statements with on a monthly basis which shows you all the investments where they are lying. So in terms of the information availability is there, the idea is when you take the decisions, you involve the family, saying that what you are doing, why you are doing, and as we started the saving part of it, also it helps many a times where you involve them is in case you are having trouble, probably they can help you save a lot of money at that time by cutting down the expenses. So it's all whether you involve in the good times or the bad times to the family members, that would actually improve the financial health of the family which is there.
No, you're absolutely right. And, it's come to my attention that so many accounts, for example, don't have nominees. And if in the event of an unforeseen circumstance, a family is left floundering for basic information. And that money often goes to the government, and that's hard-earned money that is rightfully the family's, and yet the proper measures are not in place to claim it, right? So do you think that perhaps a more, awareness is needed on this front? And if so, how can we sort of mass proliferate that message?
I think it starts from your own home. So everyone over here first has to make it a habit of sharing whatever investments they have made along with their spouses, with their children, and also with their daughters, right? It's very important to share what kind of investments you have, what kind of assets you have. It's not something to keep secret, right? So that is one thing that you need to start.
I'm going to take a quick break on that note. Much more on the other side from our Surat Springboard. Do stay tuned. Back in just a moment. Welcome back. With us here on IDFC First Bank presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11. You're watching our Surat Springboard.
You know, Gopal, I'd like for you to weigh on some of the financial habits of next-gen India, okay? In that there's a need for immediate gratification. Oftentimes there's perhaps a reluctance to buy a home if one can rent, right? An increasing comfort with credit. What do you make of some of these habits, and are these sort of leading the personal finance industry in the right direction, or do they need to be curbed?
I would not say to be curbed. These any product which comes to the market, it has its pros and cons both. Credit, if utilized well, it gives you rewards, etc., which is there. But if you don't pay on time, there is heavy penal interest which is there. So any product which comes will have, you need to know how to use it, which is there. And coming to a point, the younger generation which is there, and getting access to credit very early, it can lead to this kind of issues where there is a revolving credit, they don't pay on time and they pay penal interest on that. But if it used effectively, it can help them a lot. It is more towards a Western culture where it was less of a savings habits which people had, and leading to debt traps while they are even studying in the colleges, which is there, and
Right.
spoiling their credit history. This is what we are probably moving a little towards there, where there is a easy money which is there, but people realize when they pay penal interest, they are broke, they have very shortfall of money. That's the time they realize their mistake and start changing their habits, which is there. So I'll just add to the previous point which was
Please.
there regarding the nomination.
Yeah.
That was a very important and relevant thing, and the regulators realize that piece. So for example, if you're investing in mutual funds and you don't have a nomination, there was a timeline till 31st March to nominate, otherwise you won't be able to take out your money. The regulator has extended it by 6 months, but definitely it's in the right direction, where an investor consciously takes a decision whether they want to nominate or they don't want to nominate, otherwise they will not be able to transact. So at the time of investment itself, the one has to choose whether they want to do it or not. It is mandatory now, which was optional. Similarly, where one does a stock trading, they buy and sell stocks in the market, you need to compulsorily have a nomination declaration in your demat accounts. So regulator is making it mandatory where people were not doing it. So that becomes a very important aspect, saying that if whatever lapses have happened in the past, but probably going forward, those are being taken care of, kind of thing, by the regulators and the industry working towards that.
No, absolutely. That September 30th deadline is looming. Now, Piyush, I'd love your take on, for entrepreneurs, you know, in our audience, what tips might you have to share about how to streamline cash burn? All right?
So, there are 3 different stages of business. One would be you are building a startup. Other would be, you are expanding, and the third would be that it's already a scaled up company. So most of the mishap happens during the earlier stages. You end up not drawing a line between your personal and business expenses and things like that. So the first step would be to build a comprehensive budget. Right. The comprehensive budget should also have some margin attached to it. So let's say the budget, for figure's sake, is 20 lakh. A 30% margin of around like 6 lakh rupee would add as a cushion. If things do not go in your direction, then you'll have some place to fall back on. Second important thing is there are so many good businesses which you can start without a lot of capital. So if you're starting up, try to focus on that area. Like, I'm not against debt, but when you are borrowing and when you are starting new, the one thing that you have to ensure is that you have to pay back that money, right? So for the first stage entrepreneurs, a good advice would be to avoid debt when they are trying and testing the markets. For those who have already launched the product and who are again scaling up, the cash burn should be in a manner that you can forecast some revenues which would take care of further expenses going ahead. Cash flows are a very important subject. They should be separated from profits. A business might be profitable, but the cash cycle in itself might kill the business altogether. In the previous panel, we were discussing about textile industry, and over here someone mentioned that the credit cycle is of like 6 months.
Right.
Right. So if you're on the other side, if you are the one who's extending credit, then even though you're profitable, you might end up not being able to sustain through the entire cycle of the business. So channelize your cash flows, understand your business revenue metrics, be selective for your clients when you're in the second phase. In the third phase, I don't think it's a very big problem, to be honest.
This question revolves around evolving preferences, okay, between generations, all right? So oftentimes in family-owned and operated businesses, there's a resistance to join the business because there's a conflict between father and son or grandfather and son or what may be, how money is to be managed, right? There's a psychological difference and there's a strategic, difference in terms of frame of mind, right? So if two entrepreneurs don't share the same view on how money is to be managed, should they be in business together?
Ideally, they have to come to some common area kind of thing. There has to be a common ground between two different thoughts. If you have to run the business successfully or manage the finances successfully, which is there. And what we see nowadays is in terms of, say, a generation, which is the father passing on the younger generation coming and joining them, they are much more planned in terms of their investments, which is there. And they are much more structured approach, which they would like to do. The previous generation was more saving and not thinking too much about where it is and how to review it. But the younger generation is putting a lot more structured approach kind of thing to the investments where it comes to. And definitely it is leading to better output for the family, if I would say. So.
All right. And Piyush, are there certain ratios, or magical numbers, so to speak, that someone that's just tiptoeing into personal finance can use when it comes to, say, budgeting or savings? What are the ratios in terms of perhaps pick the minimum and the maximum within which one ought to remain?
So I would also like to add on the previous question.
Yeah, please.
So I would start from there. So talking about generation gap, I strongly feel that I think most of the Zoom would agree over here with me that at times, like the younger generation, like you have to be open-minded about it, right? And I think there's a lot to learn from the previous generation or like from your fathers when you are entering a business with them. So first few years, if you have an established business, and even though if you think you have a lot of difference of opinion between how they think and how you might think, I think you should first spend a couple of years under their guidance. So I think that is very important. And this exercise would expedite the career growth by leaps and bounds. Like what if you would learn by yourself over the next decade, you can simply learn in a year or two at max.
Right. And, by way of closing comments, and I'll pose the question to the both of you, the single most commonly made mistake that you've observed when it comes to personal or corporate finance?
Single most common mistake which we feel is in a panic situations we react kind of thing when if the markets are down we would sell, when the markets are up we would go and buy. So we are following the herd mentality which is there. That is the most common mistake we see. Rather you should stay put for a longer time. The cycles come and go kind of thing over a period of time. If you stay put, long-term investing gives a lot of positive results.
And you, Piyush?
I think from business perspective, you should never blur the line between business finances and your personal finances. When you start or even during the middle, if you're not drawing a salary, it's something it's looked as a great thing. But then at the end, if you start drawing for your personal expenses from business accounts, you will never be able to understand in true sense how your books are reflecting and what your books are reflecting. And I totally agree with the market volatility and cycles, and when you should avoid the mistake of panic selling or buying at the top of the market. So one good thing would be to just avoid when things are too rosy and have some guts when things are too gloomy.
Well, thank you for adding such a depth and breadth to the conversation, and huge round of applause for both of our panelists once more. Thank you.
Out of time on tonight's conversations. If you have any feedback for us, do let us know. Our details on your screens as we speak. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.